online, please do add them in the comments. Share with us your experience of education. Use the hashtag OurUN. Be a part of the conversation. Shadi?
So following up on the issue in Singapore, it's the same where I come from, in Iran. I teach English and French at very high-end schools there, and when I ask my students aging 7 to 18, what do you want to be? Everyone wants to be a doctor or an engineer, and they are girls. And I'm very proud to see so many girls wanting to enter the society as doctors or engineers or taking over big spots, but I look at a class of 40 and I see, do we really need 40 doctors? Or do we need a psychologist or a professor or, I don't know, a social developer? And this really amazes me that we pitch for the highest things that we only consider high in our own, stereotype box. So for me, for instance, I was a straight A student all the way to the end of high school, and then I told my parents I want to take a gap year in art. And their reaction was, what? Are you mad? Do you want to take a gap year in art? And I did, because I always wanted to be an artist. I had it in me, and that changed a lot of things about the way I look to the world. So I don't think we have anything that's cheap or anything that's not working. I think people, and most specifically younger people, have to have this vision in their mind that's follow any kind of education you think is right for you in your heart. Back to a friend from Bhutan, if schools would teach us how to unlock that inner potential that we have, rather than just give us some textbook examples of what's a good person or ethics and stuff, then maybe we would find some inner, let's say, inner talents or something that's a bit hidden down there, and that would change our life drastically sometimes.
So, would you like to, we could talk about education all day, but maybe our friend from UNESCO could sort of wrap this topic. We'll move on to the next one.
Okay, so I found it really interesting that you started off by pretty much endorsing that there's a real fundamental and important role for education. But I think the critical thing is what you're talking about when you say education. Because if we're just talking about schools, I think we're potentially being very limiting. Because our schools tend to follow, and we've heard some examples of this kind of model. It's almost like turning out our little robots, even though they're not necessarily robots. Because this is the kind of way that education systems have kind of been developed. So I think it's really interesting to have this dialogue about what young people do want schools to offer. And I 100% agree that it needs to be about finding the pathway of each individual. And no two people are the same. And so we can't expect you to all come out looking the same. You should actually all come out looking different. But the school, what role can the school play to help you get there? And I think with modern education systems, and certainly the high-end schools in Bangkok, they're doing this now. But how do we actually reach down into the public system that's not as well funded and where the teachers aren't as well prepared and trained to be able to do this kind of thing? So I think this would be a really interesting dialogue to continue with young people. And I think we had some very good examples and a great place to start from. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just to be constructive but also challenging. I agree with Sue. Not only the school, why should the school have this monopoly? Why don't we challenge ourselves within our families, challenge our parents, our society? I mean, I think Bryce and I think it's a learning experience, just being part of a team. Anything you can learn, the learning is continuous. So I think, I was going to say a very rude word about the schools, but so challenge yourselves to amass knowledge and experience outside the school.
Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. It's going to be related to the environment and climate change. And most of the response were about waste management and how they kind of question about how people actually know how to recycle, how to just change to use something reusable in order to reduce waste, but why people just simply not do it. What's your opinion?
So I think for when it comes to sustainability, one of the big issues is incentive structures, because on one hand we usually try to promote this sort of from an intellectual level that recycling, or trying to be more sustainable is good fundamentally. But I think what's a big way to actually make that happen is not just appeal to people's sense of morality, but also economics. Because I think at the end of the day, people are very practical. So when when the plastic bag at 7-Eleven or the straws are free and there's no penalty for you to take them, then people say, why not? It is because it is ultimately beneficial to you personally to have that bag somehow. And if it's not, you just throw it away. But I think if you put really economic penalties and sort of incentives, and if you're familiar with the idea of a nudge, government nudges, I think those elements can be more effective than only trying to appeal to the idea of why. Because you should have to have both. It's of course very important, and it's the most ultimate goal to make people really believe in sustainability. But in the meantime, to have an incentive structure to push them in the right direction, I think is more practical.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, so I have just a small comment related to this because you're talking about nudging. I noticed there are quite a lot of recycle bins around my condo, but I never actually know what's supposed to go in them.
Mm.
So it's just the small things like that. So I bought a burger and I had a dirty paper bag, and I was like, oh, it should be good, I should recycle. But then I went to the bin and I was like, I don't actually know if this should go in there. Like, does dirty paper count? If there's oil on it, will I screw up? If this goes into the factory, will it burn down? Am I going to wreck the recycling system here? So I just put all my dirty stuff into the non-recycling bin because I don't know what's supposed to go where. So I think sometimes really small, trivial things like that can make a big difference in people's decisions, especially if, like me, you're not very familiar with what the rules are in the country, deciding to recycle.
Yeah, I think I want to echo what Bryce and Ashit have told about it. It definitely has to be a behavior change. It's not one thing, it comes from education of what should be put in the bins and etc. But another thing, and I want to move away from hypothetical and this is bad, and I want to move and tell about my own experience of how me and a group of young volunteers have done some actually action steps to make it happen. So we went to one of the biggest supermarket a couple of years ago while I was still in my home country. And for people in my country, which is only now becoming a middle-income country, talking about recycling and let's buy this, the clothes bag instead of the free plastic one sounds, it's like, this is for free. So anyway, we did a whole campaign for a few days with 20 volunteers in the supermarket, advocating and telling people and explaining what's the use, showing some of the videos that we again took from the internet. And then we had a deal with the supermarket that for people who would buy, for the certain amount, like Bryce was saying, there was a certain amount that you would buy for a supermarket, but if you buy the bag instead of the cloth bag instead of the plastic bag, you would get the discount card, and then you would get this because they would actually discount you for more than the usual discount card. So it's like an incentive. So I want to urge you as well to move into some action steps that you guys can make to really think of how you can tackle with the climate change and recycling. And I actually met one girl who's the ASEAN bag reusable campaign. She's from Indonesia. Some of the colleagues have met her. So yeah, I think just something as a thought.
According to what I have learned and since when I was freshman year, and that time my friends was doing this project as well about the waste management, and we came up with it is a social innovation course, and we came up with a new design of the bin, and that's how we researched like a lot, and we found out that most of people, like everyone say that most of people, they don't know how to separate, and they don't have the enough knowledge about the recycle and non-recycle, and same as me as well. And when I went to like Japan, I think that the bin in Japan, it has a good design and better design, and it is very easier than Thailand to separate. It has like many bins, but the design and the information at that bin is easier to separate. And so I will conclude that I think the solution is, it depends on the design of the bin, and if it has a good wording and easy to understand and easy to separate, I think it will be easier to solve. Thank you.
I have a few friends. They are very passionate about responsible consumption. For example, Latu sitting next to me. So we bring out plastic food container to go to a supermarket and buy salad from that. We also bring out tote bag so that we can refuse the plastic bag from the owners. But more often than enough, we struggle with how to spread this kind of lifestyle to everyone, because we talk a lot about waste management. We wish the structure would be better. We wish that the bin, the trash bin, would be more understandable to us. But I think that what we can do is just start from us. Do not expect anything from the government, from the policy, and of course, just do it, and then the other will follow. And if there are just a movement, like a large number of people that are committed to not using plastic bag, for example, which is very simple, but we use plastic bag a lot. So the government or the system will see that, and they will make they will make a change, I guess. And also, I think because of social norm. So whenever I go to Thailand, if I review a plastic bag, the sellers will be very offended. Why don't you take it? So yeah, and sometimes I go with my friends, and I do not speak Thai, so the sellers give it to me. I ask my friend to give it back to them, and she just said that it's a norm to just accept it. If we deny it, it will be very once again affect the sellers, and she's Thai, so she wants to save her face as well. Anyone else? Okay.
Hi, so I just want to share a personal experience. I really resonate with creating an incentive system to promote recycling, because when I was in Indonesia, I was participating in a grain camp at grain school, and then I actually interacted with a social entrepreneur who converted the waste into merchandise and sell it back to the market. So he's been doing that for 10 or 20 years, and his business is really sustainable. I think not only just sort of imposing incentive system to sort of encourage people to recycle, but also I guess we can bring in like the private sector, because I think it's a big business opportunity as well. Like if people can convert waste into something that can be resold in the market, then there's great revenue. So yeah, just personal.
Okay, so I also interested in waste management a lot, and then I watched one TED talk about the storytelling and our waste management. So it tells us about like what we're trying to say in the campaign is like make people fear of climate change and like the polar bear and stuff. But then what is really effective, like our human, what we react to fear is like we step away from that issue. But then if we change the story that's relevant to us more, people will like involve in the campaign more. That's insight that I got.
How do they
the one who did the TikTok.
So it's not really about the waste, but then he gave us example about slow food movement in Italy. So like one Italian man doesn't want their food culture to go away, but then he didn't do something like, okay, it's gonna go away, but then he like start to like make people feel like warm and make people feel like it's a good experience to like reserve the Italian food. So we can do the same with our waste management. We can encourage people to do like eco stuff by giving them better experience in like not a plastic bag, but like a tote bag, and like better experience.
So I think about this kind of topic is that the truth, people always know about this topic. They know what they have to do with the recycle and waste management, but some people might not like think that it's not affect them directly. That's why they kind of like got this topic about. So I have been doing the research and interview with the shop in Thammasat University because we were doing the project with the tote bag, and the result was that not only the people know how to deal with the plastic bag, but the shopper they just concerned with the price of the plastic bag because the price is much more cheaper than like the other like eco friendly material. That's why they choose to do to have the plastic bag or like the plastic plate in the market. So I think the raising awareness is important as well, and also we have to concern about the price of the material, not because like we might not only concern about the material as well, but we have to do about the price.
Okay, all right. So I'm, for the benefit of the Facebook Live, I'm Janet from the UN Environment Program, and we are very interested in sustainable lifestyles and understanding from youth what you want us to do and what we can do to make a sustainable lifestyle more easy. And I think it actually relates a lot to what you've been saying about education. If we're getting this education from so many different places, from advertising or from the shop seller who's giving us the bag and telling us that it's polite to take it. So actually what we've got to do is look at, well, how can we provide youth with information about how they can live a more sustainable life? And that balances a little bit all the information you get from advertisers telling you how to use your money to express your identity, or how to express your affection, or to be part of a community. Do you have to buy a certain laptop to be part of that community that you like the look of? So I think there is something to be said about connecting our consumption patterns and the decisions we make every single day about food, about the stuff we use, about transport, and understanding how that relates to who we are as a person. And that really makes a difference over your lifestyle, over your lifetime, and it trickles through the economy back to the environment. So if all of us say we don't want plastic straws, and you actually say it to the waiter or the air steward or the shop owner, eventually over time that they are listening. Shops are really scared of losing customers. I think it shouldn't be the other way around. Don't be afraid of losing the shop. So be vocal in person or online when you're shopping. And I'd just like to make a quick plug. So for any young people out there who are listening on Facebook or who are in the room, we want to support you. If you have a really good idea about how to make our lifestyles more sustainable, for example, our food, our transport, our life at home, our leisure activities, and the stuff we buy, if you have a cool idea, we want you to apply to 4 Billion Dreams, the Asia Pacific Sustainable Lifestyles Challenge from Facebook web. And we're going to choose 50 finalists to attend a hackathon in March. And from there, 10 people will win $10,000 or more to implement their project. Yeah. So maybe someone is in the room right now, I don't know, but there is a relationship between our lifestyles. I saw your reusable bottle, by the way. I think that's really awesome. So there is a relationship with our lifestyles and who we are as people and how we express ourselves, and the environment. I think is a good place for education in that area.
If anyone would like to learn more about that campaign or any of the other opportunities that we're sharing here in this event, please email us at apinyinfo@gmail.com. I'll put it in the comments in the Facebook Live. So if you're interested in the environment issue, share in the subject box, environment, and then share what your interest is, and then I can send it over to the manager of that project. Okay, so please share at apinyinfo@gmail.com. I'll put it in the comments.
Does anybody else want to add anything more? Okay, let's go on to the next topic then. It's going to be about healthcare. And people were talking about, which one should I go? Okay, so there's this rock star that is running around Thailand right now to raise the budget for the hospital. His name is Thun, and he's like a hot topic for Thai society right now about the budget allocation from the government to hospitals in Thailand. Yeah, so what's your opinion about that? Because it's kind of really controversial right now, because people started to question why he has to do that, because it's supposed to be the government job in order to distribute the budget. So people just asked why he has to do that, and some of the response from the internet were talking about that it's actually a good idea to do that. Otherwise, people wouldn't know that hospitals do not have enough budget. So it's a kind of way to raise awareness to those people on the internet. So what do you think?
What I think is that flowing water does not stagnate. So I think everyone should just very quickly just move around a little bit. If there's a pause, because if you sit down for so long, you shouldn't sit down for more than about 40 minutes. It's up to you, but literally just move.
Yeah, I like that. Nice.
Thank you.
Everyone's going to think, what do we think of this celebrity promoting low-budget hospitals? This is what we think. All right. Okay, thank you. You can grab a seat. All right, next topic. No, joking. Anyone like to talk? They could talk about what they think of celebrities doing advocacy for these issues, or you could talk about your experience of the healthcare system. Anything to open dialogue. Anyone like to share?
Thank you. I think what this rock star has done is almost like every other issues is all belong to government responsibility, but it's never been enough to complete and solve all these issues. And I think volunteer spirit is always good and for the good cause. And I think that's a way we raise awareness, because for all of every social issues, there's government body that's responsible for that, but it's never been enough, and it shouldn't be the job of the government alone. I think each of every one of us should also take the responsibilities in the good cause or the thing that you perhaps have passionate about, concerned about, and wanted to contribute about. And for that rock star, I'm quite listening because I'm a runner myself, and I think what he done is good. And this is not the first time he done that. This is the second year he done that, and for even more greater hospital. And if you see the volume from last year that he did this, and the second year is much more participation and much more gathering of the social support. And I think he did what he can do the best, and I'm totally agree, and I'm supported. I'm also run to contribute to that run. So.
So I agree with you.
because I think it's a good way to raise awareness, because normally not every Thai people watch television or read the newspaper or follow, issues in Thailand. So when he ran, he ran from southern to northern of Thailand. So that means every part of Thailand aware of his action and they know what's happening in Thailand right now. So if the government, they don't state the problem out, it's time for civil society to do something to raise awareness. And I think it's a good idea to do so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I totally agree, and I think it's a big and important change for our society, because once he starts running for contributing for the hospitals, I realized that people in the community in Thailand start questioning about what's happened in the government allocation to the hospitals, and we start thinking about that, and I can see the cooperation from the organizations and also from people donate and try to contribute something to the hospital too. And I personally have experience because like 2 weeks ago I've been to Thammasat University hospital because I hurt my teeth, yeah. So I went there and I have to wait for like 5 or 6 hours, which is really long time. And I think that's the big difference between you going to public hospital and you go to private hospital. Because if you go to private hospital, all the things will be done within 30 minutes. So I think that's something that we should consider, not only the accessibility but also the standard and the quality of the hospitals.
I want to share the idea, the experience that I've encountered before. Last year, my aunt suffered with a heartburn and a few stomachache, where she goes to the public hospital called, I think is Sikarin around Bang Na, where she used the Go card for which is low cost, like it's given by the government. The doctor say that she just suffered with a few stomachache, that's normal. But later she vomit and vomit as a blood, first part. And later she was admitted in the hospital and found out that she was suffer with some sort of stomach cancer. I don't know what's the technical term. And later she was found in the final stage, where the doctor does not really concerned about her anymore. And she do the weekly checkup and she needs to wait 6 hours or 8 hours just to do the checkup. And the doctor just gave her a paracetamol just to cure the thing that she suffered, and later she was died. Like she passed away due to the cancer, but the doctor said that it is not their fault. It's because you did not notice the cancer because of yourself. I think that it is not only about the government, but it's also about the quality of the doctor and also the quality of the hospital.
One or two more.
So I just would like to share as well, because like if we're talking about healthcare, it's also not only about the hospital and how we can avoid the disease, but it's also about how we can prevent it as well. And then talking about prevention is also not only about physical, but it's also a lot about mental health as well, which is, I think it haven't been tapped very much. And personally, I have the experience like when I started my own business, and I deal with a lot of stress as well. And then it's a lot of stress without being aware that it's with like where are those stress come from, something like that. And then I met like another friend who are also working like in startup field, and then she shared me her experience of getting into depression. And when I heard about it, I was like, like very surprising how she can get into the depression, because from the perspective I see, she's doing what she loves, and then she's doing it like very successfully, and then people support what she's doing. But then she's sharing like her perspective that like she's feeling depressed because she feeling that like whatever she do is not good enough. Even she seemed to be like very good person. But then when she share that, and it's really reflect me a lot, and I feel surprised at how close I am to the depression. And after I talk with her, I also talk with many other people who work in social enterprise field, and I feel the similarity of the like mental stage that people are facing about this. So actually, I feel like depression and mental issue is very close to people that like we haven't like aware of it, and it's also like affect the physical health later as well. So talking about mental health is not only about doctors who can heal it, but it's also from the support of people around as well, like being listening and also being aware of what happened to the people like nearby yourself. So I think this is the very simple healthcare that we can be part, like to engage about it as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for sharing from the heart on this topic. Just one or two more comments before we move on to the next topic. We do have a working group dedicated to health, which is actually chaired by UNAIDS. So if this is a topic that, I mean, it's a topic that's close to all of our hearts, because we care about our own health, and we care about the health of people around us, our loved ones, and also our neighbours, etc. So there are ways that young people can actually get involved in raising awareness about health issues, for example, or maybe fundraising for hospitals that are short of money for key, critical operations. So again, there's ways to get involved. There is a health working group, and if you stay tuned on the Facebook Live at the end of this dialogue, someone from UNAIDS will share some more information about that working group. Okay, Bryce?
Just one final comment, going back to the original topic of this, the celebrity endorsement. And I think exactly what Adam was saying is that it's not only, I think, celebrities that can really make a difference in terms of raising the profile of critical causes, whether that's sustainable lifestyles or underfunded public hospitals, but also all of us today. So can also do something. You can be part of these kind of campaigns. And you can even piggyback on something like this celebrity campaign in Thailand. Because a lot of times perhaps your other friends don't know about it, or they just didn't hear about it. So talking to them, sharing it on Facebook, on social media, can make their impact even stronger. So I'd really encourage people to not just think about, it's not limited to only celebrities or politicians or famous people, but every time you share one of these stories, or you really talk to your friend about why it's important to be sustainable, why it's important to have good quality public health care, then you really do, you really can make a big change in the social consciousness of these issues.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's jump to the last topic, which is gender equality. So people were talking about domestic violence in Thailand and how our culture kind of influences this to keep on going. Because they say that because in Southeast Asia we have this male-dominant society, and which leads to violence against women. And people just, when it happens, the victims just don't talk about it because they are afraid to be criticized by the society, and also in some cases they perceive this as something normal that happens every day. So they don't think it's a problem, and sometimes they just blame themselves that they is actually the cause of this violence because they make the husbands angry and so on. So, and this violence can be in the form of physical, mental, can be verbal, financial abuse too. So what's your opinion?
Anyone have anything to share on this topic? Anyone who hasn't spoken yet? Good point, Mark. Yes, I mean, would anyone like to share? I mean, is anyone here, have they been affected by what they see as gender inequality in their country? Is there anything that they have done to try and deal with such a society? Should we talk about society? Should we talk about things we can do to reverse it, to change it, to make society more equal? Open.
about all these topics that we've covered so far is that they're so interrelated that you can easily start at one point and cover them all. So recently, my country was hit by a very severe earthquake in a rural region.
What's your country again?
Iran. So in Kermanshah, we had a very bad earthquake which left millions of people homeless. And people, actually civil society, everyone started fundraising and starting campaigns to take food, clothing, and resources to the affected people. And at one point, something very extravagant happened, and one of our celebrities who supported healthcare started a campaign for delivering sanitary products, including sanitary napkins, to that area. And that was very badly received from many people, including the male viewers of this post on her Instagram. And, well, I mean, let's take a moment to think about the depth of this crisis. So you've lost your home, you've lost everything, your family, and a lot of people are helping you, and a lot of people who are helping you are being criticized for the reason why they're helping you. So as a very recent example, I can see that healthcare, education, like how you educate people to just accept that there's another gender and it's different from mine. They all have their own needs, and we all have our own needs. It's so interrelated. So I think I'm really sorry to actually hear such things happening in my country, but I'm sure that there's always a little bit of it around. That's why we're here. We're going to raise awareness to change this. That was just an example to take the disaster, to a certain level.
Hello. I just started to question the education again that I was in, and that we did not mention anything about, for example, domestic violence, sexual harassment, consent, never at all. And I started to question whether it would be useful if this subject was mentioned in the school too, because I really it would really be. And yeah, but in Thai society, I mean, I've been working on campaigns raising awareness about anti-sexual harassment and this kind of stuff for a while. And I've been talking to lots of people about their experience and also like mine too. And that, I mean, most of the people, they are really afraid of being criticized by the society, that they would not be that good girl if they have been through this. And I also observed what, like, my own experience too, that actually something that, I mean, I realized later that some of the things that happened to me before was actually sexual harassment. But then because I did not know that before, so I didn't know that it was wrong. And I believe that, no, I mean, it's actually true that some people, when they commit sexual harassment to others, sometimes they don't know that what they do is wrong either, because they might think that it's something that happens every day, and no one say something about it. And this is the reason why I really think that speaking about what is really, really important, to let the society know that this stuff is real, this stuff is wrong, and it's not acceptable. And yeah, that's something I'm trying to work on right now.
Hello again. My name is Nantana, and I'm representing UN Women, and I'm working on the UN Trust Fund to End Violence Against Women. So this topic is really close to my area. And first of all, pick up on your point regarding how the school should be integrating this initiative, or teach students at the young age what is the sexual harassment is, what it means, what is and I can give you example of some of the programs that we support in Nepal, where they use very good technique of football integrated into curriculum. So coach, because football has been seen, especially in the culture that male dominated, like South Asian. I think all the Asian could be saying that it's male dominated society. And in Nepal, especially where there's school that have girls and boys, and most likely they hang out around the same sex of friends, like boy hang out with boy and girl hang out with girls. And with that, there's, especially on football, which has been seen as a sport for boys, girl not playing, not participating, and it have seen. So that's why this initiative, particularly using football as a tool to integrate girls to participate. So they coach, they have a volunteer course played in the school. So every Friday of every week, they bring together the girls and the boys, and they teach football session, and they do football match. And also they teach what is gender-based violence, what is physical violence, what is mental violence that you facing, and what you should, what action considered to be violence, and what you should do and respond if you facing violence in school. And after that, mini session of giving information, they will do a competition between the teams, and the coach will ask questions, and then the team that know the answer, that which one is physical violence, which one is verbal violence, and they will shoot the football into that particular goal, and the first team that be able to do that score first. And that way, I think is really encourage learning environment in school, and that really help the student to memorize different type of violence, and they memorize very well.
Thank you so much. So there's lots of, so I think UN Women has a lot of campaigns that you could probably share, but we might not have time. So if you're interested in getting more involved in this topic and others, again, please email us at apniinfo@gmail.com. Just type gender equality in the subject line, and I will try to connect you with a relevant person so you can get involved. And there's materials outside, aren't there, about a couple of campaigns that UN Women is involved in. So for all of you in here, there are some resources out there for you to check out if this is an issue that you care about.
So I think a part of this whole violence and violence against each other, I think a lot of what we can do is to try and be an ally to each other. And it's about being nice to ourselves as well as being nice to each other. So even as a woman, saying things like, I feel so ugly today, etc. If we make it a point that our friends shouldn't say stuff like that around each other, because that feeds into being mean to each other. And I'm sure, I've always felt sure that men who beat their wives don't feel good about themselves when they do it. So I think a lot of it is about being kind to ourselves and being kind to each other. And that's one thing that we can just do every single day.
So, to segue from this, we had a question on the Facebook Live from Kanchan, and he asked, what can be the major effort in developing countries like Nepal to develop youth leadership, even if we're not able to work in our country due to economic drawbacks? So this could be a good time to move from the topics to what young people can actually do, and how we can get young people more involved to become leaders, to lead social change. I'd like to hear just a few ideas about that. How can we encourage youth leadership even in countries where there are economic drawbacks? And then we can share the opportunities from the different working groups.
So we're talking about economic drawbacks. I'm going to talk about economic non-existence. That's a level further. So I'll be expanding on this subject while we're talking about peace in my part later on, but just to let you know, we recently organized an event in Tehran about peace, and we had 200 enthusiastic people coming, most of them youth, and also some people who were much older but interested. And we did not have a single dollar of funding. And I know I'm sitting among some lovely people from the United Nations here who have always been kind to us, but even UNFPA Iran did not attend our event as a guest, which was very strange. But to my dear friend from Nepal who just commented on our live, I want to tell you that economic drawbacks are certainly a very disturbing thing that people have to deal with when they're becoming leaders, when they want to mentor others, but I would not see it as an impossibility. So it's, first you have to manage and have experiences, start small, try to manage a budget, and try to work on events that are self-sustainable. They provide, like, taking some small delegation fees and matching the expectations that you are like building in the person and the things that you're providing for them is a good way to start. So I think that starting small is always the key where we have lots of economic problems and lots of barriers and no support at the same time. And good luck to you.
Anyone else? How can we encourage youth leadership, drive youth-led social change,